Good evening. Cesar Retam here reporting on the chapter 11 and 12 outline, which is concerning UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, as it relates to risk of loss and contract performance. Interesting chapters, very applicable to the day-to-day running a business. I would imagine both local, national, international. Some of these, at least the principle of regulating trading and regulating business and moving shipment or tangibles from A to B might be, if I were to give a guess from the international standpoint, it probably regulated similarly as it is here in the States with the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, which is the regulations that enable merchants to transact lawfully and with a measure of guidelines within the different states here in the United States. As a form of summary, these chapters provide a comprehensive overview of how the UCC handles risk and performance issues, ensuring both parties in a sale contract understand the rights and responsibilities to prevent and resolve disputes effectively. From a risk of loss perspective, which is what I wanted to focus on in my readings. The chapter explains the allocation of risk between buyer and seller when no breach of contract occurs. It depends on the terms of delivery, such as shipment contract and destination contracts. The contract performance emphasizes how parties must fulfill their contractual duties. Sellers are obligated to deliver goods to conform precisely to the contract terms. Buyers have the right to reject non-conforming goods, but must do so within a reasonable time and notify the sellers of the rejection. So a lot of things are very well organized and regulated to prevent misunderstandings from happening and help level set or settled discrepancies in business transactions. Some of the relevant quotes from Brother Hales, I quote from him in chapter 11 under the statute of frauds. As you recall, the statutes of frauds require that certain agreements must be evidenced by a writing, by in writing. One of those categories involves sales contracts for goods priced at $500 or more. Any writing, including notes on napkins, emails, or texts, will be sufficient to meet the writing requirements as long as it is clear that the parties intended to enter the agreement and it is signed by the party against whom enforcement is being sought. This caught my attention because uh, I always been under the impression and operating on the guise that a contract is a little bit more formal than writing a piece of paper or a text or an email, or as it says here in the back of a napkin. Um, but it can be just as simple as that when two people transact and interchange. As far as the connections that I made, the principle from these chapters of the UCC provide businesses with a legal framework to manage risk, ensure performance, and handles disputes effectively. This understanding helps in drafting better contracts, managing supply chains effectively and efficiently, and mitigating legal risk in commercial transactions. While this is all great and helpful, without getting too political or political at all, when governments and regulatory entities enter or tamper into intervening with private parties who, in good faith, try to or attempt to engage in business transactions, I'm hesitant to fully credit these third parties and their intent and purpose to um, regulate. There's usually some financial gain um, from the regulators. Never mind the control piece that um, enables a little bit more oversight than it should. So again, without getting political and too opinionated on this, I think there's a fine line between being helpful and helping two uh, parties that want to interchange businesses and having to intervene and get in the way and regulate too much of what what is being done. So my personal takeaway as it relates to the importance of clear contract terms, um, one of the key takeaways as it relates to this clarity in contract terms is the necessity of having detailed and clear contract terms, especially concerning the transfer of risk, whether it's a shipment or destination contract, specifying when the risk of loss passes from seller to buyer can prevent many potential disputes and financial losses. All this underscores, in my opinion, the importance of precise language and contracts. So while contracts and agreements can be very simple as I described earlier, or as it's implied in the readings of this week's that can be done in the form of a text, an email, or in the back of a napkin. The formality and the language used in these transactions or agreements can be critical, especially when in face of settling discrepancies and misunderstandings. I hope that these comments and this readout is helpful. Thank you.